hold up a mirror and make you look at it honestly, without flinching, without making excuses for what you see. Most people don't want that. They come looking for direction, for a shortcut, for someone to tell them what to do next. And the mentor smiles because they've seen that before. That eagerness to skip past the hard part and get straight to the doing. But the doing without the seeing is how people stay stuck for years, moving fast in the wrong direction. Here's what the mirror shows you. It shows you where you are right now, not where you imagine yourself to be. Those two things are often very different. And until you close the gap between the story you tell about yourself and the reality you're actually living, all the plans in the world are built on sand. The mentor would ask you some uncomfortable questions, not to embarrass you, but because they care enough about your future to be honest about your present. Questions like, how disciplined are you really? Not on a good week when you're motivated, but on an average Tuesday when nothing is exciting and nobody's watching. That's where your actual character lives. They'd ask you about your habits. Not what you intend to do, but what you actually do. Because intention without follow-through is just noise. And the difference between where you are and where you want to be is almost always found right there, in that space between what you said you would do and what you actually did. They'd point out the patterns. Most of us have them. We start strong and trail off. We respond well to short-term pressure, but lose momentum when the urgency fades. We're great at making promises and inconsistent at keeping them. A mentor sees this not as a character flaw to shame you with, but as raw material to work with. The pattern isn't your destiny. It's just your current operating system, and operating systems can be changed. Here's something worth sitting with. You can't navigate well from a false starting point. If you think you're further along than you are, every map you draw is going to be wrong. And you'll spend time and energy trying to figure out why the path isn't working, never realizing that you've been misreading your own location from the beginning. The honest self-assessment isn't meant to discourage you, it's meant to orient you. Think about it like this. If you're lost in a city and you stop to ask for directions, the first thing any good directions require is knowing where you are right now. Not where you wish you were, not where you were 6 months ago, right now. The mentor gives you that. They give you an accurate pin on the map of your own life. And that requires courage on your part. It requires you to sit down and take stock without the usual defenses, without blaming the economy or your upbringing or the people who didn't help you when they should have. Some of those things may be true, but they're not useful in this moment. What's useful is what's in your control, what's in your hands right now, today. A mentor would also point something out that most people miss. They'd say that the reason honest self-assessment feels so uncomfortable is that we've tied our identity too tightly to our current level of performance. If I'm not doing well, that must mean I'm not a good person. If I haven't achieved what I thought I would by now, that must mean something is fundamentally wrong with me. But that's not how it works. Your current results are not a verdict on your worth. They're just data. And data is incredibly useful. Data tells you what's working and what isn't. Data tells you where your effort is landing and where it's being wasted. Data points you toward adjustments, but only if you're willing to read it clearly, which means you have to stop protecting your ego long enough to actually see it. The mentor would tell you this. The bravest thing you can do is be honest with yourself when nobody else is watching. Not dramatic honesty where you tear yourself down. Just clean, quiet honesty. Here's what I've been doing. Here's what it's produced. Here's the gap. Here's where I go from here. That's it. That's the whole thing. That honest look in the mirror is not the end of the process. It's the beginning. And it's the most important beginning you can have, because everything that comes after it is built on something real. Everything in life has a price. Not always money, though sometimes money is part of it, but always a price of some kind. Time, discomfort, discipline, sacrifice, focus, delayed gratification. The life you say you want comes with a specific bill attached to it, and a good mentor makes sure you understand what that bill actually says before you commit to paying it. Most people make the mistake of wanting the result without fully accepting the cost. They want the business, but not the years of uncertainty that come before it succeeds. They want the strong relationship, but not the daily effort of showing up fully for another person. They want the body, the skill, the knowledge, but they want them to arrive conveniently, without too much interference with the rest of their life. And that's why so many people start things they don't finish. They didn't read the fine print. A mentor sits you down and tells you, pick what you want and then look at the real cost of it with clear eyes. Not the cost you hope it will be. Not the cost someone described in a book where everything worked out neatly. The actual realistic cost. The number of hours, the number of failed attempts, the number of mornings where you have to get up and do it again even though the last round didn't go the way you planned. Here's a truth that takes some getting used to. There is no discount version of a worthwhile life. The universe doesn't offer markdowns on the things that matter. You can find smarter paths, more efficient routes, better systems, but you cannot eliminate the cost. You can only decide whether you're willing to pay it. The mentor would want you to get specific about what you actually want. Not vague wishes, not I want to be successful or I want to be happy. Those aren't answers, they're placeholders. What specifically do you want your life to look like? What does a good day look like for you in concrete terms? What kind of work are you doing? Who are you spending time with? What have you built? Once you can see it clearly, you can start to work backwards and understand what building it actually requires. Then the mentor would say something that might surprise you. They'd say that wanting the life isn't enough. You have to want the work that produces the life. Because the work comes first, every single time, and it comes whether you feel like it or not. And people who are only in love with the destination tend to quit somewhere in the middle, when the work is hard and the destination is still far away. But here's the good news in that, and there is good news. When you find work that aligns with what you genuinely value, not what someone told you to value, but what actually matters to you, the cost doesn't disappear, but it changes in character. It becomes something you're willing to pay. Not easy, but worth it. That's the distinction. Not easy versus hard. Worth it versus not worth it. The mentor would caution you about one thing in particular. They'd warn you about the trap of comparing your cost to someone else's. You look at someone who has what you want and you think, it didn't seem that hard for them. Maybe they had better circumstances, more talent, more luck. And maybe some of that is true. But you weren't there for the years before the easy part. You didn't see the failed attempts they don't talk about at dinner. The cost was paid. You just didn't see the transaction. Comparison is dangerous because it can make you feel cheated. It can make you feel like you're paying more than you should have to. Like the system is unfair to you specifically. And when you feel cheated, you start looking for shortcuts, ways to get the result without paying the full cost. And the shortcuts more often than not either don't work or take you somewhere you didn't want to go. A mentor would tell you to be honest with yourself about what you're not willing to pay. This is important. There's no shame in deciding that a particular life isn't worth its particular cost to you. Some people decide that the cost of building a certain kind of business, for example, means giving up time with their family, and they decide that's not a trade they're willing to make. That's not failure. That's clarity. That's knowing what actually matters to you and organizing your life around it. What is a problem is wanting something badly and then quietly refusing to pay for it, and then wondering why you never have it. That's the form of self-deception that a mentor helps you break out of. They help you get honest about whether you're actually committed or just interested. Because committed people pay the cost. Interested people wait for a discount that never comes. Decide what you want. Look at the real cost. Then make a clear decision, yes or no, and live by it. That's what a mentor helps you do. That's the whole framework. And once you can do that honestly, you'll waste a lot less of your life in the gray zone of wanting something, but not actually pursuing it. A mentor watches two things at once. They watch your progress toward the goal, the milestones, the results, the numbers, but they also watch something else, something that most people don't watch at all. They watch who you're becoming in the process. And they'll tell you plainly, the person you turn into along the way is more important than anything you end up with. This is a hard thing to hear when you're focused on an outcome. When you have a target in front of you, it's natural to measure everything by whether you're getting closer to it. That's how progress feels. That's how you know you're moving. But the mentor pulls back the lens a little and says, yes, but look at yourself while you're moving. Are you growing or just grinding? Are you developing or just executing? Are you becoming someone you respect? The goal itself is almost never the final word on whether a journey was worth it. You've probably met people who achieved what they set out to achieve and weren't satisfied because they expected the thing to fill a space that only a certain kind of growth can fill. And you've probably also met people who didn't quite reach the goal and still feel like the whole thing was deeply worthwhile because of who they became in the attempt. A mentor helps you understand that the work you do on the outside has to be matched by work you do on the inside. Not in a vague, mystical way, in a practical way. The discipline you build while pursuing something hard is a resource you carry with you forever. The patience you develop when things don't go on schedule is a skill that will serve you long after this particular goal is finished. The resilience that comes from being knocked back and choosing to keep going, that's character and character compounds. Here's what the mentor would say about character. They'd say it's the most durable thing you own. Skills can become obsolete. Industries change. Circumstances shift. But the character you've developed, the quality of your word, the depth of your commitment, your capacity to handle difficulty without becoming bitter, that travels with you everywhere and never loses its value. They'd probably point out something you might not expect. They'd say that who you're becoming affects not just your long-term success, but your day-to-day experience. When you're growing as a person, when you can feel yourself becoming more capable, more patient, more grounded, the work is energized by that feeling. It has a different texture. It's not just effort spent, it's investment made. And the return on that investment shows up in how you carry yourself, how you handle hard days, how you treat the people around you. The mentor would warn you about a particular kind of drift. It's possible to spend years working hard and end up harder in all the wrong ways. Bitter instead of seasoned, cynical instead of wise, impatient with people, short with yourself, dismissive of anything that doesn't produce immediate results. That's what happens when someone chases the goal without tending to the person doing the chasing. They'd tell you, pay attention to how you're treating people when the pressure is on, not just when things are going well, but when things are tight, when you're tired, when you're frustrated. That's when character reveals itself. That's when you find out what kind of person you're actually building. And if you don't like what you see in those moments, that's the most important project you have in front of you. A mentor helps you understand the relationship between what you're working toward and what you're actually made of. Sometimes the goal changes as you grow. What seemed like the right target at 28 turns out to be too small by 35. Not because you're greedy, but because you've developed and your vision has expanded with you. That's good. That's healthy. But it only happens if you're actually growing along the way, not just checking boxes. There's a question the mentor would come back to regularly. They'd ask you, are you proud of how you're showing up? Not the results yet, just the showing up. Are you being the kind of person who keeps their word to themselves? Who does the work even when no one's watching? Who treats setbacks as information rather than evidence that the whole thing is pointless? Those are the measures that matter most in the middle of a long journey. And finally, the mentor would say this, The greatest thing about working towards something meaningful is not the arrival. It's the transformation. The version of you that finishes the journey is not the same version that started it. And the difference between those two people is the most valuable thing the whole process produced. Don't be so focused on the destination that you miss what's happening to you on the road. I'm telling you, there is a moment in almost every person's life, usually somewhere in the middle years, when things become acceptable. Not great, not what you originally dreamed of, but acceptable. The bills are paid, the job is stable, the routine is manageable, things are fine. And fine, the mentor would tell you, is one of the most dangerous places a person can live. Because fine doesn't feel dangerous. That's exactly the problem. Danger usually announces itself, a crisis, a failure, a moment of obvious breakdown. But fine is quiet. Fine sneaks up on you slowly. Fine is comfortable enough that you stop pushing, stop questioning, stop reaching. And before long, fine becomes permanent. Not because you chose it, but because you stopped choosing anything at all. The mentor would have a word for this. They'd call it the plateau. And they'd tell you that the plateau is not a resting place. It's a trap. It looks like stability. It feels like you've earned a break. But what's actually happening is that your ambition is quietly cooling, and your tolerance for the ordinary is quietly rising. And those two things together are a ceiling on your life. Here's what's tricky about comfort. It's not inherently wrong. Rest is necessary. There are seasons of consolidation, of letting things settle, of recovering your energy. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the slow acceptance of a smaller life than the one you were built for. The quiet agreement you make with yourself that this is probably as far as you're going to go. A mentor would tell you to watch for the signs of the plateau. One of the clearest signs is that you've stopped being uncomfortable. You're not really stretching anymore. The work doesn't challenge you the way it used to. You're operating mostly on habit and experience, rarely on edge, rarely unsure of yourself. And while confidence is valuable, the absence of any uncertainty often means the absence of any real growth. Another sign is that you've stopped caring much about what you're learning. Early in the journey, you're hungry. You read, you ask questions, you seek out people who know more than you. But on the plateau, that hunger fades. You think you know enough. You've seen this before. You're not as curious as you used to be. And when curiosity dies, growth follows it out the door. The mentor would push back on the story you might tell yourself about why the plateau is okay. The story usually sounds something like this. I've worked hard. I've earned this. I'm not 25 anymore. This is just what life looks like at this stage. And there's just enough truth in that story to make it convincing. Yes, you've worked hard. Yes, you deserve rest. Yes, life does look different at different stages. But none of that means you've reached the ceiling. It just means your current habits have produced a ceiling, and habits can be changed. Here's the distinction that matters. There's a difference between being content and being settled. Contentment is a good thing. It's peace. It's gratitude. It's appreciating what you have while you work toward what's next. Being settled is different. Settled means you've stopped moving, stopped wanting, stopped engaging with the full potential of your life. One is healthy. The other is a slow surrender. And most people can't tell them apart from the inside. The mentor would be direct about this. They'd say, the world will let you be mediocre if you want it to. It will not resist you. Nobody is going to show up at your door and tell you that you're settling, that you're capable of more, that the version of you that stopped pushing is not the full version of you. Life mostly accepts whatever you give it, which means the decision to keep growing has to come entirely from inside you, without external pressure, without a deadline, without a crisis forcing your hand. If you had a mentor, they'd probably tell you something worth holding on to. The antidote to the plateau is not some dramatic overhaul of your life. Most of the time, it's something smaller and more consistent, raising your standard for what you expect of yourself by just a little, in the right areas. asking more of yourself in your craft, setting a target that makes you slightly uncomfortable, spending time around people who are still moving, still growing, still excited about what's possible. Those things shift the environment, and the environment shapes you more than you realize. The plateau is not a verdict on who you are. It's a signal. It's the moment life is tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "There's more here if you want it." The question is whether you still have the appetite for it. Life sends signals constantly. It's been sending them your whole life. The question is whether you're listening, and more specifically, whether you've learned to hear the right things in the noise of everything that's happening around you. A good mentor teaches you this more than almost anything else. Not just how to work harder, but how to pay better attention. Most people move through their days in a kind of forward momentum, busy, responding, managing, reacting. And in that state, it's very easy to miss what life is actually trying to tell you. The signal gets buried under the noise of the immediate. And then years pass and you find yourself looking back at a moment where life was clearly pointing somewhere, and you didn't notice, or you noticed but didn't act on it. A mentor would start here, with the failures. Because failure is one of the clearest signals life sends, and it's also one of the most routinely misread. When something doesn't work, the instinct for a lot of people is to assign blame, shake it off, or push harder on the exact same approach. What the mentor teaches you to do instead is pause and ask what the failure is showing you. Is it showing you a flaw in the strategy? A gap in your preparation? A misalignment between what you said you wanted and what you're actually willing to do? Failure is not punishment. It's information. But only if you read it carefully. They'd talk about friction. Friction is the resistance you feel when something isn't working the way it should. Not the normal difficulty of hard work, but a specific kind of recurring resistance that keeps showing up around the same things. When you notice that, a mentor would tell you not to dismiss it or overpower it. Sit with it first. Ask why it keeps appearing. Sometimes friction is telling you that you're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's telling you that you're on the right path, but handling it the wrong way. Either way, the friction is data, and it deserves your attention. The mentor would teach you to notice the people who keep showing up in your life and why. Not in a superstitious way, in a practical one. The people you encounter, the conversations that happen to land at the right moment, the introductions that lead somewhere unexpected. Most people write these off as coincidence. But the mentor would suggest that you've been unconsciously positioning yourself for those encounters through the way you're living, the things you're working on, the questions you're asking. Pay attention to what those connections are pointing toward. There's something the mentor would say about doors that close. A lot of people experience a closed door as rejection, as evidence that they're not good enough or not lucky enough. But the mentor would reframe it. They'd say that a door that closes firmly and repeatedly is not rejecting you. It's redirecting you. Life tends to be pretty clear about what isn't meant for you if you're willing to listen. The problem is that most people keep knocking on the same door out of stubbornness or fear of starting over, when the whole time there was an open door just a little further down the hall. They'd also help you understand the difference between the discomfort of growth and the discomfort of misalignment. Both feel uncomfortable, but they feel different in quality. The discomfort of growth is hard but energized. You're stretched, you're unsure, but you feel like you're moving towards something. The discomfort of misalignment is draining and hollow. You're working hard, but something feels off at a deeper level, like you're building in the wrong direction. The mentor teaches you to feel that difference, because ignoring the second kind of discomfort for too long is how people end up deeply invested in a life that doesn't actually fit them. Here's what the mentor would say about listening to yourself. Not to your fears. Those are loud enough on their own and rarely useful. Not to your mood, which changes daily, but to the deeper, quieter layer underneath all of that. The part of you that has a pretty clear sense of what matters, what's working, and what you've been avoiding. Most people know more about their situation than they're willing to admit, And the reason they don't act on what they know is that acting would require change, and change is uncomfortable, and staying in the same story is easier. A mentor helps you build the habit of honest internal listening, not as a spiritual practice, though some people frame it that way, but as a practical one, taking time regularly to ask yourself how things are actually going, not surface going, deeply going. Are you on track? Are you spending your time in ways that align with what you value? Are there things you keep putting off that you know need your attention? Those questions don't require a crisis to be useful. You can ask them in a quiet hour on a Tuesday and get more clarity from them than from a year of busyness that never slows down long enough to reflect. And finally, the mentor would say this: learning to hear what life is telling you is a skill. And like any skill, it gets better with practice and worse with neglect. The more you develop the habit of paying attention to your results, to your patterns, to your instincts, to the signals in your environment, the more clearly you're able to see what's happening and what needs to happen next. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay honest, stay curious, and stay willing to hear what life is trying to tell you, even when the message is inconvenient. That's what a good mentor gives you. Not a map, not a guarantee, but better eyes. And better eyes change everything. Here's the big question that he asked me that day, and as simple as it was, it changed my life. He said, "Mr. Rohn, why do you want what you say you want?" You see, he wanted to know why I wanted. He didn't really care about what I wanted, and he didn't want a perfect answer. He didn't want the one that I was putting on my applications, or the one that I had prepared for dinner parties. He meant the real answer. The one underneath the performance, the one I didn't have words for yet because nobody had ever asked me to go looking for it. Why do you want the income you say you want? Why do you want the business you say you want to build? Why do you want the body, the marriage, the freedom, the respect, the influence? Why? And I'm not asking because I think you don't have a reason. I'm asking because I think most people have never actually examined the reason they're carrying. And an unexamined reason is one of the most dangerous things a person can build a life on top of. Here's what I've seen over many years of watching people set goals and chase dreams and fall short and start over and fall short again. The problem is almost never ability. It's almost never resources. It's almost never timing. The problem, more often than anyone wants to admit, is that the person chasing the goal doesn't actually know why they're chasing it. They have a goal, sure. They might even have a plan. But when you peel back the layers and ask them why this particular thing matters to them, why this one out of all the things they could go after, what you get is vague. What you get is borrowed. What you get is something that sounds like it came off a bumper sticker or out of somebody else's mouth. I want to be successful. I want financial freedom. I want to make a difference. And those are fine sentiments, I guess. But they're not reasons. They're slogans. And you can't sustain a life of effort and sacrifice and difficulty on a slogan. A slogan will carry you through a Monday morning. It won't carry you through a year of setbacks. Now let me tell you where most of these vague reasons come from, because I think it's worth understanding the root of the problem. Most people are carrying goals they didn't choose. They inherited them. They picked them up the way you pick up an accent, slowly, unconsciously, from the environment they happen to grow up in. Your family valued a certain kind of success, and so you absorbed that definition without ever asking whether it fit you. Your culture told you what a good life was supposed to look like, and you started building toward that picture without ever examining whether it was a picture you actually wanted hanging on your wall. Your peers moved in a certain direction, and you moved with them, not out of conviction, but out of proximity. And none of that makes you foolish. It makes you human. We're social creatures. We're shaped by the people and the messages around us. But here's the cost of never questioning those influences. You can spend 10, 20, 30 years climbing a ladder with tremendous effort and real sacrifice, only to reach the top and realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. And at that point, you haven't just lost the time. You've lost the energy and the faith you would have needed to start again with something that was genuinely yours. This is what I mean when I say that a weak reason isn't just unhelpful. A weak reason is actively dangerous, because a weak reason will let you start. That's the deceptive part. It has enough energy to get you off the ground. It has enough appeal to make you feel like you're going somewhere. But it doesn't have enough pull to keep you in orbit when the resistance shows up. And the resistance always shows up. Think of it like fuel in an engine. You can have the most beautifully engineered machine ever built, the finest parts, the best design, a body that looks like it was made to move. But if you fill the tank with the wrong fuel, that machine is going to stall. It might run for a mile, it might even run for 10, but sooner or later the engine is going to cough and choke and quit. And it won't be because the engine was flawed, it'll be because the fuel wasn't right for the journey. That's what a borrowed reason does. It gets you started, and then it leaves you stranded. And the worst part is, you blame yourself. You think, I must not be disciplined enough, or I must not want it badly enough. But the truth is, you might have plenty of discipline and plenty of desire. You just aimed them at something that wasn't yours, and your deepest self knew it even when your conscious mind didn't. So let's talk about the difference, because this is where the real work begins. There's a difference between a borrowed reason and an owned reason. And that difference is the difference between a life that sputters and a life that sustains. A borrowed reason is one that sounds right. It checks the boxes. It would impress someone if you said it out loud at a gathering. But when you're alone, when it's late at night and the doubts are circling and nobody's watching, that reason doesn't generate any heat. It doesn't pull you forward. It just sits there, polite and lifeless, like a painting of a fire. It looks like warmth, but it doesn't produce any. An owned reason is different. An owned reason might not even sound impressive to anyone else. It might be private. It might be specific in a way that only makes sense to you. But when you think about it, something moves in you. Something tightens in your chest or rises in your throat. It's not comfortable. It's not decorative. It's alive. And that aliveness is what you need, because the road ahead isn't going to ask you for impressive words. It's going to ask you for something real, something that comes from deep enough inside you that the surface storms can't reach it. Here's what I've noticed about the people who actually follow through on what they set out to do. It's not that they're smarter. It's not that they're tougher. It's not that they were born with some extra reserve of grit that the rest of us are missing. What they have, and what most people don't, is a reason that belongs to them. A reason they didn't inherit, didn't borrow, didn't copy from a magazine or a speech or a conversation with someone they admired. They went digging. They asked themselves hard questions and sat with uncomfortable answers. They peeled back the layers of I should, and they expect, and everybody says, until they hit something that was undeniably, unmistakably theirs. And once they found it, everything changed. Not because the obstacles got smaller, but because the reason got bigger than the obstacles. That's the shift. That's the moment. It's not when the road gets easier. It's when the reason gets strong enough that the difficulty of the road stops being the deciding factor. And I want to be straight with you about something, because I think honesty is more useful than encouragement at this stage. This excavation is not pleasant. Digging into your own motives is not a comfortable afternoon exercise. It requires you to confront things you may have been avoiding. It requires you to look at goals you've been chasing and ask, did I choose this or did this choose me? It requires you to consider the possibility that you've been spending years of effort on something that doesn't actually matter to you. Not really, not in the way that counts, and that the fatigue and frustration you've been feeling isn't a discipline problem. It's a direction problem. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been pulling a load that your real self never agreed to carry. And the relief that comes from setting that load down, from admitting that this wasn't yours, from going back to the beginning and asking, what do I actually want and why do I actually want it? That relief is not failure. That relief is the first honest breath you've taken in years. So here's what I want to leave you with before we go further tonight. The first act of real ambition is not setting a goal. I know that sounds wrong. I know we've been told our whole lives that the first step is to set a clear goal, write it down, put a timeline on it, and go. And I'm not saying that's bad advice, but it's incomplete advice because it skips the most important step. The first act of real ambition is excavation. It's digging down past the surface, past the expectations, past the noise, until you find a reason that is so specifically, so personally, so undeniably yours that no one could talk you out of it, even if they tried. You don't start by deciding where you're going. You start by understanding why you would make the journey at all. Because the destination can change. The plan can change. The timeline can change. But if the reason is real, if it's truly yours, if it came from the bedrock of who you are and not from the echo of somebody else's voice, then it doesn't matter how many times the map has to be redrawn. You'll keep moving. You'll keep searching. You'll keep finding a way, not because you're extraordinary, but because your reason won't let you stop. And that is the only fuel worth filling your tank with. Not the fuel that sounds impressive, not the fuel that looks good on paper. The fuel that burns hot enough to keep the engine running long after the excitement is gone. And the only thing left between you and quitting is the honest answer to one question: why am I doing this? Find that answer, and I mean really find it. And you will have done something that most people never do. You will have earned the right to set a goal that actually has a chance of surviving the life you're about to put it through. Now let's say you do find your reason. I want to spend some time on something that most people skip entirely. They find a reason, or at least they think they do, and they move straight to action. They start building, start pushing, start grinding. And then 6 months later, when the pressure mounts and the ground shifts beneath them, their reason collapses like a house built on sand. And they can't figure out why, because it felt so real when they started. It felt strong. It felt like enough. But feeling strong and being strong are not the same thing, and tonight I want to show you the difference. I want to break down what actually makes a reason durable, what gives it the structural integrity to hold you steady when everything around you is trying to pull you loose. Because not all reasons are created equal, and if you're going to stake your future on one, you'd better make sure it's built to last. We'll start with the most common kind of reason people carry, because I think it's important to understand why it fails before we talk about what works. The most common reason is vague. It's general. It's the kind of thing that fits on a greeting card. I want to be successful. I want to provide for my family. I want to live a good life. Now, nobody's going to argue with those statements. They're perfectly pleasant. They're perfectly safe. But that's the problem. They're safe. They don't cut deep enough to reach anything that matters. When you say, I want to be successful, what picture does your mind actually produce? If you're honest, it produces something blurry, something generic. A nice house, maybe, a certain amount of money, some vague notion of respect or admiration. But there's no face in the picture. There's no specific moment. There's no scene you can close your eyes and walk into and feel something so strong it makes your throat tighten. And that's the test. If your reason doesn't produce a specific image that creates a specific emotion, it's a wish, not a reason. And wishes are beautiful on birthday cakes, but they're worthless in a crisis. Now let me show you what a strong reason looks like, because the contrast is everything. A strong reason has specificity. It doesn't live in the abstract. It lives in a scene, a moment, a face, a place. It's not, I want to provide for my family. It's, I want my daughter to grow up in a home where she never hears her parents arguing about whether they can afford the electric bill. Can you feel the difference? The first one is a concept. The second one is a photograph. The first one asks nothing of your imagination. The second one puts you in a kitchen with a child under fluorescent light, and it makes you feel something you can't talk yourself out of. That is specificity, and specificity is what gives a reason its shape. Without shape, a reason is like water. It spreads out in every direction and has no force. With shape, it's like water through a nozzle, concentrated, directed, and powerful enough to cut through things that would otherwise stop you cold. When you're sitting at your desk at 9 o'clock at night, exhausted, wondering whether any of this effort is going to amount to anything, a vague reason gives you nothing to hold on to. But a specific reason puts a picture in front of your eyes, and that picture pulls you forward when nothing else can. The second quality of a reason that holds under pressure is what I'd call visceral connection. And by visceral, I mean it lives in your body, not just in your mind. You don't just think about it, you feel it. It produces a physical response. Your jaw tightens, your chest swells, your hands want to move. This is important because the battles you're going to fight on the road to anything worthwhile are not intellectual battles. They're emotional battles. They're battles of fatigue and discouragement and loneliness. And those battles are not won by logic. Logic will tell you all the reasons your effort makes sense, and you'll nod along and agree completely and still not get out of the chair. But a reason that lives in your gut, a reason that you feel the way you feel hunger or anger or love, that kind of reason doesn't need to convince you. It doesn't need to present an argument. It moves you the way instinct moves you, beneath thought, beneath deliberation, at a level where resistance has very little power. That's what it means to have a visceral connection to your purpose. And most people have never developed that connection because they've been taught to think about their goals instead of feel them. And here is the third quality. And this one might be the most important of all, and it's the one that separates the reasons that hold from the reasons that crumble when the real weight comes down. A reason that survives serious pressure almost always has a dimension that reaches beyond self-interest. Let me say that carefully, because I don't mean that self-interest is wrong. Wanting something for yourself, wanting a better life, a stronger body, a sharper mind, a fuller bank account, there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, self-interest is a perfectly fine engine for getting started. But self-interest on its own has a ceiling. There comes a point in every difficult journey where the cost exceeds the personal benefit, at least in the short term. There comes a moment where the suffering you're going through is greater than any reward you can imagine receiving. And in that moment, a purely self-interested reason runs out of fuel. It says, this isn't worth it anymore. The pain exceeds the payoff. Let's stop. But a reason that includes someone else, a child, a family, a community, a cause, someone whose life is changed by whether or not you keep going, that reason has a different kind of fuel. It's not just burning your own desire. It's burning something larger, something that makes the equation about more than just you. And when the equation is about more than just you, the math changes. The suffering doesn't shrink, but the meaning of the suffering expands. And meaning is what makes unbearable things bearable. Imagine two people training for the same difficult physical challenge. Same course, same conditions, same level of preparation. The first person is doing it because they want to prove to themselves that they can. That's a fine reason. That's a worthy reason. And it will carry them a long way through the early mornings, through the sore muscles, through the first few obstacles. But at some point, deep in the middle of the challenge, when their body is screaming and their mind is begging them to quit, that reason is going to face a test it may not survive. Because in that moment, the person can say, I've already proven enough. I don't need to prove anything more. I can stop and still respect myself. And they'd be right. They could stop and still hold their head up. The reason gives them permission to quit because it's already been partially fulfilled. Now look at the second person. This person is doing the same challenge, but their reason is different. They're doing it because their father was told he'd never walk again after an accident, and they want to cross that finish line carrying a photograph and a message that says, if you couldn't quit, I won't either. That reason isn't about proving anything to themselves. It reaches beyond them. It includes someone else's story, someone else's struggle, someone else's face. And when that person hits the same wall of pain and exhaustion, the calculation is entirely different. Quitting doesn't just mean stopping. Quitting means breaking a promise that extends beyond their own comfort. And that extension, that reaching beyond the self, is what gives a reason the weight to hold when everything else is trying to pull you loose. Now I want to introduce a way of thinking about this that I find really helpful, and it's the metaphor of an anchor. Think about a boat on the ocean. On a calm day, you can anchor that boat with almost anything. A bucket of rocks, a cinder block, a chain attached to a tire. In still water, even a modest anchor will hold you in place. And on the calm days of your life, that's exactly what happens. A modest reason, a vague reason, a borrowed reason, it holds you just fine when the water is smooth. You go about your business, you do your work, you feel steady, and you think, my reason is strong enough. I'm anchored. But you're not anchored. You're just floating in calm water and mistaking the absence of a storm for the presence of strength. Because when the storm comes, and the storm always comes, that modest anchor is going to be ripped off the bottom like it was never there. The boat is going to drift, and you're going to drift with it. And you'll end up somewhere you never planned to be, wondering what happened. What happened is that your anchor didn't have the weight for the conditions you encountered. You anchored for a pond, and life put you in the ocean. An anchor with real weight is different. It's forged from something specific, something visceral, something connected to a world larger than your own comfort. It doesn't just sit on the bottom. It digs into the floor. It grips. It holds, not because the conditions are easy, but because the anchor itself is heavy enough to resist what's pulling against it. And when the storm hits, the boat still rocks. Make no mistake about that. Having a strong anchor doesn't mean you won't feel the storm. You'll feel every wave. You'll feel the wind and the spray and the uncertainty. But you won't drift. You'll hold your position. You'll get through the night. And when the sun comes up and the water calms, you'll still be exactly where you intended to be. That is the difference between a reason that holds and a reason that doesn't. It's not about whether the storm comes. It's about what you're anchored with when it arrives. So let me ask you to do something right now in your mind. Think about the thing you say you want most, the goal, the ambition, the dream, whatever word you want to use. Now think about the reason behind it. And I want you to run it through these 3 tests honestly, without flattering yourself. First, is it specific? Can you close your eyes and see a scene, a face, a moment, a place? Or is it a fog, pleasant but shapeless, warm but weightless? If it's a fog, it needs work. It needs to be sharpened into something so clear you could describe it to a stranger and make them see it too. Second, is it visceral? Does thinking about it produce something in your body? A tightness, a heat, a quickening? Or does it just produce a thought, a nod, a mild sense of agreement? If it only lives in your head, it's not deep enough yet. You need to push it down into your chest, into your gut, into the place where things are felt rather than just understood. And third, does it reach beyond you? Is there someone else in the picture? Is there a face other than your own? Is there a life other than your own that changes because of whether or not you follow through? If the answer is no, I'm not telling you the reason is worthless, but I am telling you it has a ceiling, and that ceiling is lower than you think, and you're going to hit it at the worst possible time. Most people have been trying to weather serious storms with decorative anchors. That's not a criticism. That's a diagnosis. They chose their reason with good intentions, but without enough scrutiny. They picked the first thing that sounded noble or felt inspiring, and they never tested it for weight. And the result is that every time the water gets rough, they come loose. Every time real difficulty shows up, the kind that doesn't resolve in an afternoon, their anchor slides across the bottom, and they drift away from the very thing they said they wanted most. And the tragedy is that they often have everything else they need. They have the talent, they have the opportunity, they have the intelligence and the work ethic and the desire. The only thing they're missing is an anchor built for the actual conditions of the life they're trying to live. So if you take nothing else from this part of our conversation tonight, take this. Go back to your reason. Look at it with honest eyes. And if it's vague, sharpen it. If it's only in your head, push it into your body. If it's only about you, find the part that's about someone else, because you're going to need that anchor. Not today, maybe. Not this week. But the storm is coming. And when it arrives, the only thing that's going to matter is whether your reason has the weight to hold you where you want to be. Now, I want to talk about something that most people get entirely wrong about having a strong reason, and it's this. They think that once they've found it, the hard part is over. They think that finding the right reason is like finding the right key. And once you have it, every door just opens smoothly and you walk through without resistance. And I get why people think that, because that's how it's been sold to them. Find your passion and the work won't feel like work. Find your purpose and you'll leap out of bed every morning. Find your why and the obstacles will melt away. That sounds beautiful, and it makes for a wonderful page in a book, but it's a lie. It's a well-intentioned, nicely packaged, deeply misleading lie. Because the truth is, finding your reason does not remove the difficulty from the road ahead. Your reason is not a magic spell that makes hard things feel easy. Your reason is the thing that makes hard things feel worth it. And those are two completely different experiences, and if you mix them up, you're going to be blindsided the first time your purpose meets real pain. So what does that mean? When something feels easy, there's no weight, there's no friction. You move through it the way you move through a pleasant afternoon, lightly, effortlessly, without having to summon anything from inside yourself. That's what people expect their reason to do for them. They expect that once they've found the right motivation, the right purpose, the effort will feel light. The early mornings will feel light. The sacrifice will feel light. The setbacks will feel light. And when those things don't feel light, when they feel exactly as heavy as they would feel without a reason, people panic. They think something is wrong. They think they must have the wrong reason, because if it were the right one, wouldn't this be easier? And so they go back to searching. They abandon the reason, abandon the work, and start digging for a new motivation that will finally make the whole thing feel effortless. And they'll search for that their entire life and never find it, because it doesn't exist. No reason, no matter how deep, no matter how true, has the power to remove the weight from difficult things. That's not what reasons do. What a real reason does is something far more valuable, but far less glamorous. A real reason gives you a place to put the weight. Think of it this way. Imagine you're carrying something heavy across a long distance. If you're carrying it for no reason, if someone just handed you a load and said, walk, every step is misery. Every step your mind is asking, why am I doing this? What's the point? When can I put this down? The weight feels unbearable, not because your body can't handle it, but because your mind has no framework to justify the suffering. There's no meaning attached to the effort. It's just pain for the sake of pain, and the human spirit was never built to endure that. But now imagine you're carrying the same load, the same weight, the same distance, and the load is medicine. And at the other end of the road is someone you love who won't survive the night without it. Has the weight changed? Not 1 ounce. Your back still aches. Your legs still burn. Your lungs still strain. The physical experience is identical, but the entire meaning of the experience has been transformed because now the weight has a place. It's not pointless. It's not random. It's connected to something that matters so deeply that putting the load down is no longer an option your mind is willing to consider. That is what a strong reason does. It doesn't make the load lighter. It makes setting it down unthinkable. And this is why I say that your reason only becomes real after it survives something. Before difficulty arrives, before the storm makes landfall, your reason is untested. It's a theory. It's an opinion you hold about yourself. You believe it's strong. You feel confident in it. You might even be right. But you don't know yet. You can't know yet. Because strength that has never been tested isn't strength, it's potential. And potential, while valuable, is not the same thing as proven capacity. Think about it this way. A bridge engineer can design a bridge on paper and calculate that it will hold 10,000 tons. The math might be flawless. The design might be brilliant. But until a real load crosses that bridge, until the steel bends and the cables stretch and the wind pushes against the structure, no one truly knows whether the bridge holds. The theory says yes, but only the test confirms it. Your reason is that bridge. It exists in your mind, beautifully designed, structurally sound in theory, but it hasn't been loaded yet. It hasn't been bent and stressed and pushed to its limits. And until it has, you're carrying an untested blueprint, not a proven structure. Now here's why this matters, and I want you to hear this clearly, because I think it's the piece that changes everything. Most people interpret the arrival of difficulty as evidence that something has gone wrong. They set out with their reason, full of conviction, and the first time life pushes back hard, their instinct is to question the whole thing. Maybe this isn't meant to be. Maybe I chose the wrong path. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And those thoughts feel very wise in the moment because they come dressed in the language of reflection and self-awareness. But what's actually happening is that the reason is being tested for the first time. And instead of letting the test do its work, the person is running from it. They're pulling the bridge down before the load has finished crossing. And in doing so, they never get to find out whether their reason was strong enough, because they didn't give it the chance to prove itself. Every meaningful thing you'll ever pursue, every single one without exception, has what I call a middle chapter. The middle chapter is the stretch of the journey that nobody warns you about because it's not dramatic enough to make a good story. It doesn't have the excitement of the beginning, when everything is new and the energy is high and the vision is fresh. It doesn't have the triumph of the end, when the results finally show up and the sacrifice pays off and everyone can see what you built. The middle chapter is the long, gray, unglamorous stretch between those two moments, and it's where most people quit. Not because they lack talent, not because the goal was wrong, but because the middle chapter is where your reason faces its first honest examination, and most reasons aren't ready for it. In the middle chapter, the initial excitement has completely disappeared. You can't even remember what it felt like to be that fired up, that certain, that charged. The results haven't shown up yet, or if they have, they're so small and so slow that they feel almost insulting compared to the effort you've put in. You look at how far you've come and it doesn't seem like enough. You look at how far you still have to go and it seems impossible. And the people around you, the ones who were cheering at the beginning, have gone quiet. Not because they stopped caring, but because your journey is no longer new and interesting to them. They have their own lives, their own struggles, their own middle chapters. And so you find yourself in the most dangerous position a person can be in, alone with your effort, alone with your doubt, and armed with nothing but the answer to one question. Is my reason bigger than this moment? That question is not theoretical. That question is the entire test. When you're in the middle chapter, exhausted, discouraged, uncertain, invisible, and you ask yourself why you're still doing this, the answer that comes back is either strong enough to keep you moving or it isn't. There's no middle ground. And this is why everything we talked about earlier matters so much. If your reason is vague, it won't produce an answer that has any force behind it. I want to be successful produces nothing useful at 2 in the morning when you're wondering whether any of this matters. But I want my kids to grow up knowing that their father didn't quit on himself. That produces something. That produces heat. That produces a physical, visceral, undeniable pull that doesn't need to be argued for or intellectually defended. It simply is, and it's stronger than the fatigue, stronger than the doubt, stronger than the silence of the middle chapter. That's the difference between a reason that survives the test and one that doesn't. One gives you words, the other gives you fuel. And here's the part that I think is the most beautiful, and I don't use that word casually. When your reason survives the middle chapter, when you carry it through the long gray stretch and come out the other side still holding it, something happens to that reason. It changes, it deepens. Before the test, it was something you believed. After the test, it's something you've proven. Before the test, it was an idea you held about yourself. After the test, it's part of your identity. There's a huge difference between a person who says, I believe I can endure hard things, and a person who says, I have endured hard things, and I chose to keep going. The first person is making a prediction. The second person is stating a fact, and that fact becomes a foundation, a piece of solid ground inside you that can't be taken away by circumstance or opinion or bad luck. Every future challenge you face it standing on the ground of what you've already survived. And that ground is more valuable than any strategy, any technique, any tool you'll ever pick up. Because strategies can be forgotten and tools can be lost. But the knowledge that you've been tested and held your position, that stays with you for good. So I want to challenge you tonight to stop running from the test. Stop interpreting difficulty as a signal that you've chosen wrong. Start seeing it for what it actually is. The process by which your reason is forged into something trustworthy. You wouldn't trust a sword that's never been struck against anything. You wouldn't trust a wall that's never felt the weight it was built to bear. Why would you trust a reason that's never been pressed, never been strained, never been asked to hold you up when everything inside you wanted to sit down? The pressing is not the enemy. The pressing is the process. It's how your reason goes from being something you carry to something that carries you. And once that transition happens, once your reason has been tested and proven and made real by what it's survived, you'll have something that no amount of comfort or ease could ever give you. You'll have certainty, not the certainty that the road ahead will be smooth. That kind of certainty doesn't exist and never will. But the certainty that whatever comes, your reason is strong enough to meet it. That certainty is not arrogance. That certainty is the quiet, hard-won knowledge of a person who has been through something real and discovered that what they're carrying is not a theory. It's a truth. And a truth, unlike a theory, does not collapse when the pressure builds. A truth holds, and so will you. Now, we may need to go where most people are not willing to. And I think the reason they haven't gone there is because it requires a kind of honesty that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel inspiring. It doesn't produce the rush of excitement that setting a new goal produces or the warmth of discovering a new reason. What it produces is clarity. And clarity, while invaluable, is not always comfortable. Because clarity means seeing things as they are, not as you wish they were. And what I want you to see clearly tonight is this. The reason most people's reasons fail them is not that the reasons aren't good enough. It's that the person carrying the reason never sat down and had an honest conversation with themselves about what that reason was going to cost. They committed to the destination without reading the price tag. They said yes to the dream without understanding the invoice. And when the bills started showing up, they were shocked. And the shock is what broke them, not the bills themselves. When you encounter a cost you expected, it's difficult, but it's manageable. You budgeted for it. You knew it was coming. You set something aside, emotionally and practically, to handle it when it showed up. But when you encounter a cost you didn't expect, when the bill arrives and you had no idea this was part of the deal, the experience is entirely different. It's not just difficult, it's destabilizing. It shakes your confidence in the whole thing. You start questioning not just the cost, but the goal itself. If it's going to be like this, maybe I don't want it after all. And that reaction is perfectly natural, but it's also perfectly avoidable. Not by eliminating the cost, you can't do that. The cost is the cost. But by eliminating the surprise. Because it's almost never the suffering itself that makes a person quit. It's the gap between what they expected and what they encountered. Close that gap before you begin, and you take away the single most destructive force in the entire journey. The feeling of being blindsided by a reality you should have seen coming. This is what I call the honest yes. And I want you to understand it because I believe it's one of the most important things a person can do before they set out on any serious pursuit. The honest yes is not a moment of enthusiasm. It's not the rush you feel when you first see the vision, when the goal is shiny and new and everything feels possible. That rush is wonderful, but it's not an agreement, it's an emotion. The honest yes is the agreement that comes after the emotion. When you've sat down with yourself in a quiet room, with no audience, no music, no applause, and you've laid out on the table everything this pursuit is going to ask of you. Not the glamorous parts, not the success story you'll tell someday. The real parts, the hard parts, the parts that nobody puts in the brochure. And I want to be specific because vague honesty is almost as useless as dishonesty. When I say lay it out on the table, I mean make a list. Write it down if you have to. What is this path going to demand from your time? Not a lot of time. That's vague. How many evenings a week will you spend working instead of resting? How many weekends will you lose? How many seasons will pass where you're building something that nobody can see yet? Where you have nothing to show for your sacrifice except the knowledge that you showed up again? What is this path going to demand from your relationships? Because it will demand something. There will be people who don't understand what you're doing. There will be gatherings you miss. There will be conversations you can't fully be present for because your mind is somewhere else, working on something that the people around you may not value the way you do. There will be loneliness in this, a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being deeply committed to something that the people in your daily life are not committed to. Not because they're bad people, but because it's your journey, not theirs. And that distinction creates a distance that no amount of love entirely closes. What is this path going to demand from your comfort? Because you are going to be uncomfortable, and not in the temporary, exciting way that adventure novels describe. You're going to be uncomfortable in the boring, grinding, unglamorous way. You're going to have stretches where you feel foolish. Stretches where you're investing money you're not sure you'll get back. Stretches where people look at what you're doing and their faces tell you they think you're wasting your time, even if their mouths are too polite to say it. You're going to have moments of real embarrassment, not the charming, self-deprecating kind, but the real kind, the kind that makes your face hot and your stomach turn. You're going to make mistakes that cost you things you care about, and you're going to have to keep going anyway, carrying the weight of those mistakes along with everything else. That's on the invoice. That's part of what you're agreeing to when you say yes to something meaningful. And if you don't acknowledge it before you begin, it will ambush you later. And ambushes are what break people. So the honest yes works like this. You sit down with all of that laid out in front of you. The lost evenings, the financial risk, the loneliness, the discomfort, the embarrassment, the stretches of invisibility where nobody's watching and nobody cares, and the only witness to your effort is you. You look at all of it, honestly, without softening it, without telling yourself it won't be that bad, without imagining that somehow you'll be the exception who gets the reward without paying the full price. And then you ask yourself one question, not, can I endure this? That's the wrong question, because almost anyone can endure almost anything for a short time. The right question is my reason worth this specific list of costs? Not worth it in general, not worth it in the abstract, worth this, worth these particular sacrifices, worth this specific collection of difficult experiences that I have just named out loud and looked at with clear eyes. Because when you say yes to that question, when you say yes knowing exactly what you're agreeing to, that yes is made of something entirely different than the yes you said in a moment of excitement. That yes has roots, that yes has been tested against reality before reality even showed up. And when the costs start coming, as they will, you don't experience shock. You experience recognition. You look at the difficulty and you say, I know you, I expected you, I accounted for you. You're not a surprise, and you're not a reason to stop. That is the difference between the people who quit and the people who keep going. And I want you to hear this because I think it's the most misunderstood part of perseverance. The people who quit are not weaker than the people who continue. They're not less talented. They're not less passionate. In a lot of cases, they wanted it just as badly. The difference is that the people who continue made their agreement with open eyes. They didn't romanticize the process. They didn't tell themselves a fairy tale about how it was going to feel. They looked at the invoice, every line of it, and they said, yes, I will pay this. And because they said yes before the bill showed up, they didn't have to make the decision in the heat of the moment, when their emotions were raw, and their energy was low, and their judgment was clouded by pain. The decision was already made. It was made in a clear room on a calm evening, with a steady hand and a sober mind, and no amount of difficulty could reopen the case. The case was settled. The verdict was in. The honest yes was given, and it held. So happens what happens when a person hasn't done this. The person who says yes without examining the cost is basically signing a contract they haven't read. And for a while, that doesn't matter. The early days of any pursuit are usually manageable. The costs are low, the excitement is high, and the gap between expectation and reality is small enough to ignore. But as the journey goes on, the costs increase, the sacrifices get deeper, the loneliness gets sharper, the uncertainty gets heavier. And because this person never cataloged those costs in advance, each one feels like a betrayal. Each one feels like evidence that something has gone wrong, that the path is broken, that they were misled. Nobody told me it would be like this, they say. And they're right, nobody told them. But that's because they never asked. They never sat down and demanded the truth from themselves. They took the brochure at face value, and now they're standing in the middle of a reality that the brochure didn't prepare them for. And they feel cheated, not by anyone else, by their own unwillingness to look at the full picture before they started. I want to leave you with something about this honest yes that I think is deeply important. And it's something that most people get backwards. Most people think that honestly facing the cost of their ambition will discourage them. They think that if they really look at how hard it's going to be, they'll lose their nerve. They'll talk themselves out of it. And so they deliberately avoid the exercise. They keep the picture blurry on purpose because they believe that ignorance is what gives them the courage to begin. But that's backwards. Ignorance doesn't give you courage. Ignorance gives you enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is not courage. Enthusiasm is what you feel when you don't know what's coming. Courage is what you have when you know exactly what's coming and you step forward anyway. The person who has done the honest yes and still says, I'm going, that person has real courage because their commitment is based on truth, not fantasy. And a commitment based on truth can withstand anything the journey throws at it because the journey can't show them anything worse than what they've already agreed to face. So I'm asking you tonight, before you go any further, down whatever road you're on, to stop and have this conversation with yourself. Not the cheerful conversation, not the vision board conversation, the honest conversation. Sit down in a quiet room and list every cost you can think of. every uncomfortable truth about what lies ahead, every sacrifice, every risk, every stretch of difficult ground. Write it all down. Don't spare yourself. Don't protect yourself from the reality of your own ambition. And then look at that list and look at your reason, the specific, visceral, bigger than yourself reason we talked about earlier, and ask the question, is this reason worth this cost? If the answer is no, that's not failure, that's wisdom. That's a person who saved themselves years of misdirected effort by telling the truth early. But if the answer is yes, if you look at that list and your reason still burns hotter than the price tag, then you have something that almost nobody has. You have an honest yes. And an honest yes, given with open eyes and a clear mind, is the strongest foundation a person can build anything on. Because the storms can come and the costs can pile up, and the middle chapter can stretch out longer than you ever imagined, and none of it will surprise you. You saw it coming. You named it. You agreed to it. And your reason, tested against the truth of what it would actually demand, held firm. That is not optimism. That is not motivation. That is architecture. And architecture, unlike enthusiasm, does not collapse when the weather changes. Now, I want to paint a picture for you because we've spent this evening talking about finding your reason, testing it, strengthening it, and honestly counting its cost. And all of that is essential work. But I don't want you to leave tonight thinking that the only function of a strong reason is to help you survive hard times. That's part of it, sure. That's what we've been focused on, and it matters a lot. But there's another side to this that most people never get to see, because most people quit before they experience it. And that other side is this: a reason that is clear, tested, and honestly accepted doesn't just help you push through obstacles. It reorganizes your entire life. It simplifies things that used to be complicated. It quiets noise that used to be deafening. It answers, before they're even asked, 1,000 daily questions that would otherwise eat up your time and energy and leave you exhausted by noon without having accomplished a single thing that matters. And that reorganization, that simplification, is not a side benefit. It is one of the most practical, tangible, measurable advantages a person can have. Let's start with decisions, because I think this is where you see the effect most clearly. Think about how much of your life is spent deciding. Not the big decisions, those come along rarely. I'm talking about the small ones, the daily ones, the ones that seem insignificant on their own, but collectively eat up hours of your week. Should I go to this event or stay home and work? Should I take this meeting or protect my schedule? Should I spend this money or save it? Should I say yes to this favor or draw a boundary? Should I chase this opportunity or focus on what I've already started? Every single one of those questions takes energy. Every single one of them creates a small moment of friction in your day, a pause, a hesitation, a weighing of options. And most people are drowning in those moments, not because the questions are hard, but because they have no filter to run them through. They evaluate every decision on its own merits, from scratch, every single time. And that process is exhausting, because it forces you to rebuild your priorities in every moment, as if you've never thought about them before. Now watch what happens when a person has a clear, deeply held reason at the center of their life. Those same decisions don't go away. The questions still come, but the process of answering them is completely different, because now there's a filter. Now there's a standard. Every question gets run through a single simple test. Does this serve the reason, or doesn't it? Does this event move me closer to what I've committed to, or does it pull me away? Does this meeting contribute to the thing I've said matters most, or is it a distraction wearing a professional costume? Does this spending invest in my declared purpose, or does it drain resources I'll need for something more important? The questions are the same, but the speed and clarity of the answers is transformed. Decisions that used to take days now take minutes. Decisions that used to agonize you now feel obvious. Not because you've become smarter or more experienced, but because you've established a reference point that makes the right answer visible almost immediately. A clear reason works exactly like a compass. It doesn't move your feet for you, but it tells you instantly whether the step you're about to take is pointed in the right direction or the wrong one. And a person with a compass covers ground in a way that a person without one simply can't match, no matter how fast the second person moves, because speed without direction is just expensive wandering. What about life at home? This is where the reorganization gets personal, and for some of you,
I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, a son, and a brother. I take responsibility for the impact of my decisions on others. I train my body daily with discipline and respect for long-term health. I am becoming a capable managing director who understands business. I am building long-term financial stability through competence and integrity. I act with gratitude, humility, and a commitment to give back. I am becoming someone who does high-intensity interval training every single week. I take time to recognize what I am grateful for every day. I visualize success every day so I know what I'm moving towards. I begin each day with discipline, clear purpose, integrity, and gratitude. I focus only on what I can influence, and I take deliberate action daily. I reflect, journal, and learn from each day so I improve tomorrow. I learn and teach every day, sharpening my judgment and understanding. I show up intentionally as a husband, a father, Day 119. Eight out of 10. 8 out of 10. Felt like I could have dug in a bit deeper at the end. Oh well. 8 out of 10.